Okay, so welcome everybody to the weekly Dharma gathering. I'm Gail Spiva and I'm going to be the host for tonight. And Joy Gutierrez is going to be giving us a talk titled Dissolving Boundaries During Times of Uncertainty. Joy will lead us through a guided meditation Dharma talk and we'll close with a Q&A discussion. Tonight's session will be recorded, so if you prefer not to be seen, please turn off your camera feature. Please note that you will also be recorded when asking a question. Also, if you have a question during the guided instruction or the talk, please feel free to enter it in the chat box at any time, and we'll be able to address it during the discussion period. And the recording of tonight's gathering can be accessed within 48 hours via your purchased products on your Vimeo Weekly Dharma Gathering account. You'll receive an email notification once it's posted. So Joy Gutierrez is a member and practitioner of the Shambhala New York Center. They're committed to building and collective inclusion of the communities LGBT and BIPOC. Joy works as a co-facilitator for the Racism, Racial Inequality Group, and also co-teaches with Queer Dharma at the LGBT Center. She will completed Teaching Mindfulness 200-hour training in 2018, which was taught by Ethan Nichtern, Shante Smalls, and David Perrin. In their professional life, Joy is helping to create public spaces in all 5 boroughs with the NYC Parks Department as an architect and urban designer. Take it away.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. This will be a nice, intimate time for us together. So I wanted to start with some meditation, and it's going to be guided. So we'll do that for like the first 20 minutes or so. So everyone, if you could just take a relaxed position on your seat, whether that's in a chair or a cushion, and feel the seat supporting your sits bones. Feel your spine uplifted, not too tight. Just feel your body. Feel that strong front, soft belly. Relax the jaw. Tuck the chin in just a little bit and
Hi, Joy. Can you hear me? You're on mute.
sorry about that. So just feel the earth and ground supporting you. In your seat, and check in with yourself. It's the quality of my mind and heart right now. And just notice that, no judgment. And bring that to the cushion while you practice. And then begin to feel the body breathing. Feeling the air in your lungs, down to your belly. Just start to follow the natural cycle of your breath. Just feel the body breathing. Any thoughts or distractions arise, simply notice them for what they are, and then come back to the breath. Now I want to guide you in a meditation, and I invite you to close your eyes and just call to mind your ancestors or loved ones whom you know are rooting for you during this time. And feel yourself in this safe space. Visualize future generations standing in front of you. And just touch into that reservoir of resilience and your own inner capacity. And just listen to these phrases. And let them wash over you if they resonate. Feel free to add your own phrases. And if it ever feels like it's too much, you can always come back to the breath. May I be gentle with myself during this fraught and tender time. May I be gentle with myself during this fraught and tender time. May I have the internal resources to handle the suffering. May I have the internal resources to handle the suffering. May I feel my emotions without judgment and just let them be, even for a moment. Whether it's anxiety, fear, unease, restlessness, optimism, joy. May I feel my emotions without judgment. And if it helps to put your hand on your heart, feel free to do so. May I listen to my body and what it needs during this intense period. May I listen to my body and what it needs during this intense period. If I need to rest, permit myself to rest. If I need to nourish myself, get some sustenance. And if I need to unplug, may I do that. May I forgive myself for not being able to physically help others during this critical time. May I forgive myself for not being able to physically help others during this critical time. And may I feel my anger or sadness and know that I am not my anger or sadness. May I feel my anger or sadness and know that I am not my anger or sadness. And may I learn from this and transform my sorrow. May I learn from this and transform my sorrow. And then just take a few easeful breaths. Notice how you're feeling, what's coming up. Again, no judgment. And just feel your breath. Feel your seat. So let's start with a bow to ourselves and to each other. And I wanted to ask if it's okay that is the recording going to show gallery view, or you've got it?
I believe it's going to show this.
Okay.
According to the instructions, I'm supposed to spotlight the video, but I forgot to start with.
Okay. Thank you. So thanks everyone for being here this evening, especially during this time of great uncertainty. Hi, Louise. Yeah, I'm feeling, like you, it's a time of distress, but also tenderness during this pandemic. And I just wanted to thank Dr. Shante Smalls for inviting me to join a weekly Dharma gathering. And then also I thought it would be nice for us to take a moment just to honor all of the lives we've lost to this virus till now. And we know that there's going to be more in the weeks and months ahead. But if you know of someone or a loved one who was lost to this disease, whether it's here in the US or anywhere in the world, let's just take a moment and pause. And if you like, you can just say their name out loud, although I know we're all muted, but feel free to do that. I'll ring the bell. And then we also want to acknowledge all of the frontline healthcare workers, hospital staff, EMS, grocery clerks, postal carriers, Amazon shippers, and offer them our thanks and a wish that they stay safe and well. So when I agreed to join Weekly Dharma Gathering, that was well before COVID-19 was here in the US. And it's such a different world that we're living in now. I mean, and every day it's changing. And so I feel that, like you, I've been experiencing many of the same feelings as you may have, whether it's anxiety, fear, worry. And in the Dharma, this is very human. But the teachings also tell us that this is also a wonderful time to feel tender, soft, and inspired. It feels very much like the I, like the me, capital M-E, doesn't matter so much in this moment, but that it's about the we, right? Our mutual interdependence. And I feel like, you know, when one suffers, we all suffer. And it's just much more visceral these days. Before, you could just sort of push it away. And so I've been turning to the teachings of some great bodhisattvas, and some of them are Buddhist, and some of them would never have called themselves a Buddhist. So I've been reading lots of Audre Lorde and Gloria Anzaldúa, but I've also been reading and learning from Shantideva. And as you may know, he taught what's called the Bodhicharyavatara, otherwise known as the way of the Bodhisattva. So Shantideva was a teacher who lived during the 8th century in India. And he provided this teaching as a roadmap for how to become a bodhisattva, so to speak. And in case you don't know what a bodhisattva is, it's someone who reaches enlightenment but waits so that they can free all others from suffering. And this is the heart of the Mahayana path. And so the Bodhicharyavatara, it runs for 10 chapters, and I'm not going to go over that right now. Talks about the 6 paramitas, etc., etc. Emptiness. We're not going to go there. I'm just going to focus on the first chapter, where he talks about developing this intention to touch into bodhicitta. And so bodhicitta, bodhi means awakened, and chitta means heart, Sanskrit. And in my tradition, which is a Tibetan Buddhist tradition, heart also means mind. Mind and heart are one. So it's awakened heart. And so this quality, bodhicitta, is something that each of us already has. And we may not know it. We may not have ever opened a Dharma book or don't consider ourselves a Buddhist. But there are many unsuspecting bodhisattvas out there. And I feel like right now, recognizing and naming this intrinsic quality and then cultivating it right from home, since we're all staying and working from home. I'm staying from working from home. I am not a frontline health worker, so I'm speaking from that experience. I feel that this could be incredibly helpful right now, because as we know, things are only going to get more intense in terms of suffering. So really, what does bodhicitta mean? It talks about this intense desire to alleviate the suffering of all beings. And in the Dharma, we make this distinction between relative and absolute. And right now, I'm just going to talk mainly about relative, because I feel like every day that's what we're dealing with. This longing to help others be free from their suffering. And that can be a physical or mental suffering, right? And it can't be just the people we want to help or the people that we like. It's for everyone. And so in practical terms, this is compassionate action. And I feel like a lot of our healthcare workers are doing that right now. On the absolute level, this bodhicitta is, absolute bodhicitta is, just so I touch upon it briefly here, it's talking about this clear, vast, open, and unbiased mind. It's absolute diamond. But I think if we're just talking about the relative terms of how this is really coming into play lately, the potency of bodhicitta is in how it lifts us out of our self-centeredness. Me staying home right now is not so much about me. It's about all of us, the collective well-being. I can give up my conveniences of modern life for the health and well-being of those who are affected or falling sick or who are more vulnerable. So whether we know it or not, we are all being asked to dig into our bodhicitta. But the only difference is that what's lacking here is the view, right? The awareness of this is something from within, and something that can be cultivated, and something that actually gives us agency, even during difficult times. And that to me is where the strength of this teaching lies. And I think the other thing that a lot of us are also experiencing is self-quarantining. We've all had to stop, slow down, and just be with ourselves or our minds. Our habitual tendencies are neuroses. I feel like lately that's what it's been feeling like. But the Dharma says that we don't have to get trapped into thinking that this is something solid and unworkable, that we're stuck or that we're weak. Like the situation that's changing daily. Our minds have a transient quality as well. It's changing and ephemeral, and it's workable. So Shantideva describes how bodhicitta can be the antidote to fear, or allowing fear to be workable, right? To go beyond oneself. And this is how we dissolve boundaries. In developing this tender, awakened heart. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, he describes this Mahayana way as we are thinking bigger. So in the Bodhicharya Vatara, Shantideva, he describes this analogy where he compares bodhicitta to this plantain tree. And when I read that, I immediately knew he was a person of color, because I just said, you know, plantains, I know this man. And I've been reading a lot of poetry that has this, a lot of language with fruit and the richness of fruit. So here it is. All other virtues, like the plantain tree, produce their fruit, but then their force is spent. Alone the marvelous tree of bodhicitta will bear its fruit and grow unceasingly. Alone the marvelous tree of bodhicitta will bear its fruit and grow unceasingly. So in other words, the plantain tree, it'll just produce fruit once, and then that's it, and then it's this beautiful green tree for the rest of the year in the tropics. But the tree of bodhicitta is like constantly bearing fruit, like a wish-fulfilling tree. So in that way, it's expansive. This, you know, if we begin to nurture this quality, it's expansive and ever yielding. And he also describes it as alchemy, which I love. You can take a situation that feels solid, this period that we're in, this, I need to do something. And it allows you to transform it. This is agency. This is an act of taking responsibility, right? Developing that awakened heart. And one distinction that Shantideva makes is the difference between aspirational bodhicitta and active. And we start with the aspirational. We begin to work with situations we might not be ready to completely handle by starting with the aspiration to be selfless. We work with what feels manageable and go from there. And so some of the practices that you might already be familiar with that can nurture and help you touch into your own bodhicitta are loving kindness or metta. Shamatha allows you to just be with your breath and feel your body and your heart. And then Tonglen, which is being offered with weekly Dharma gathering every Friday evening. And I believe Dr. Smalls is guiding that. So we begin with this aspiration. You know, you don't have to be results oriented. You just open your heart, soften. And sometimes you don't even have to be practicing. Sometimes you can just be listening to a friend, or you could be watching something unfold, bearing witness, as we say. And sometimes just holding your hand to your heart. Sometimes when I'm practicing and I'm just sort of like, oh, not feeling it. I'm not feeling myself. Like just holding your heart just allows you, like, ooh, I'm flashing on my bodhicitta. And so with this goodness, with this quality, we don't have to worry what's doable. We can actually help those who are feeling afraid or alone right now. You know, it just gives you like so much more room. And I feel like this time right now is precious and rare. I think this is a moment that could be a gift to develop this. We can awaken our hearts to others. Even if we're staying and working from home. And so let us not squander this precious human birth, as the Buddha says. I think we've all been thinking about the preciousness of life and also the fragility, and that is softening. And at the same time, it is anxiety provoking. But I think with bodhicitta, it's not, fear and awakened heart are not mutually exclusive. They work together. And so I wanted to end my talk by reading a piece from Audre Lorde, the Cancer Journals, because I feel that this passage from, she wrote this about 18 months after her mastectomy, and that was around 1980. And I feel like she really felt the importance of her life, this precious human birth, and also felt the fear as well. So that's why I think of her as just like a bodhisattva. Sometimes fear stalks me like another malignancy, sapping energy and power and attention from my work. A cold becomes sinister, a cough, lung cancer, a bruise, leukemia. Those fears are most powerful when they are not given voice, and close upon their heels comes the fury that I cannot shake them. I am learning to live beyond fear by living through it, and in the process, learning to turn fury at my own limitations into some more creative energy. I realize that if I wait until I am no longer afraid to act, write, speak, be, I'll be sending messages on a Ouija board. Cryptic complaints from the other side. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less important whether or not I am unafraid. So thank you. And I think we can open it up to questions or a conversation um, about how you're finding your tender, awakened heart during these times. I was also wondering how people are caring for themselves, and what are the things that you're doing, I guess, to stay open and to stay sane.
Well, I'll start. I really appreciated the reading from Audre Lorde. I've heard of her, but I've never actually read her stuff. And it was really wonderful.
I just love this image of her.
Yes, big smile. In fact, I'd almost love to go and hear some of that again, because it makes a difference to me to go and hear it once, and then it kind of, I hear it, but I don't hear it, but to hear it the second time, it gets into my heart. You wouldn't
Yeah,
mind.
they do that in the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition. They'll read, say, a poem twice so that you can hear it and then deeply, hear it. So I'm happy to read it again.
Thank you.
Sometimes fear stalks me like another malignancy, sapping energy and power and attention from my work. A cold becomes sinister, a cough, lung cancer, a bruise, leukemia. Those fears are most powerful when they are not given voice, and close upon their heels comes the fury that I cannot shake them. I am learning to live beyond fear by living through it. And in the process, learning to turn fury at my own limitations into some more creative energy. I realize that if I wait until I am no longer afraid to act, write, speak, be, I'll be sending messages on a Ouija board, cryptic complaints from the other side. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less important whether or not I am unafraid.
I love that. Words to live by. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love the line about the fears are most powerful when they're not given voice. Because I've been thinking about that a lot this week. I was reading an article someone wrote called that discomforting feeling you're feeling is actually grief. And so thinking about, I think what a lot of, I've been feeling a lot of kind of grief this week over the COVID-19 situation, but didn't really necessarily think to call it that, but just acknowledging that, it really makes such a big difference. And I really appreciate what you said about fear and awakened heart, can coexist.
Yeah. I think we sometimes think like, oh, if I'm going to be, a good bodhicitta, like I've got to, I'm no fear. And I don't think that's very human. I think, a lot of the healthcare workers, they're all afraid. I have a good friend but they're still going, and to me, like, that's so selfless. But yeah, thank you for pointing out that we are experiencing grief, kind of like an ambiguous grief. I don't know who coined that term, but and I just wanted to sort of acknowledge that the guided meditation that I did earlier was sort of based on Roshi Joan Halifax has a guided meditation on grief, and so I, sort of built upon that and made it for this time. Yeah, it's not an easy period we're in. But I feel like, doing these kinds of practices and coming together has been very, very helpful. Has anyone read the complete Bodhicharyavatara? We're all good Buddhists. Yeah, he's an interesting character himself. He was sort of known to be like a really kind of lazy student, didn't show up. And I think the story is that one day they invited him to teach in front of like the hall of students, and they wanted to do that because they wanted to trip him up, like, oh, he'll just make a buffoon of himself, and then he came out with these, this long, it's sort of like a long form poem, like the Sattvas. And here we are, 12 centuries later.
Doesn't go out of date.
No. So yeah, how have people been taking care of yourselves during this time? Tell me one thing. Dancing in your headphones.
For me, it's been vitamins, making sure I'm going to bed at a decent hour,
Yes.
and checking on my parents. Like just making sure that my parents have what they need has really been helping me a lot.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've been hearing from folks, and even for myself, I feel like doing a kind of a routine of like, making my bed and pulling the curtains and letting the light in, doing some yoga, like having that rhythm every day is really helpful. And then in my tradition, which is Shambhala, we call that invoking Drala, because it's these everyday things that we do that sort of allow kind of energy to present itself, good energy. And this is Chenrezi behind me, Avalokiteshvara, as many of you know, the deity of compassion. But yeah, the other thing is also like making yourself a good, nourishing meal and sitting down to eat it rather than something that's boxed or, that really helps feeling grounded, feeling connected to the earth. It's again that interdependence, like somebody else made this crop and now I'm cooking it and I'm preparing it and it's giving me sustenance. It's amazing how these like little things that we've just taken for granted are just so grounding, meaningful.
I've been appreciating the gift that is Zoom in this time. I live by myself, although my cat is good company, he's not very much of a conversationalist. And I find that surprisingly, there can be an immense amount of connection and a sense of my heart being touched. Even though, you know, when I say this, I kind of break the fourth wall, and then I was like, oh yes, I am speaking to a screen, but you know, in the moment, it makes so much of a difference to me to dissolve that sense of isolation, to use Zoom.
I've been enjoying the Zoom too. I'm in Australia, obviously, and so here it's been a bit of a mix of, I guess there's social pressures to socialise as well. There's a mix of so, you know, staying at home at the moment, you're sort of hit with a lot of invitations for what other people might perceive as a certain form of social distancing. But so I guess as far as holding some love in your heart, or you know, keeping your I don't know, keeping relations good, because it's a bit of tension as we go. I think we're at a different point than you folks in the States are, and it's not full sort of lockdown yet, but it's people, so therefore people are at various stages of social distancing at the moment. So having to sort of navigate one's way with family and friends and decline invitations and all that sort of stuff at the moment can be difficult. But the Zoom Dharma sort of things have been great for me, and especially as a person of colour, because we don't really have POC groups for Buddhists here or anything like that. So that's been great to join in on some of that online. And lying in the sun. I'm in a unit, and we have the sun comes through our lounge room window, so just getting some sun on the couch has been nice. Anyways,
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I was gonna, when you brought up the thought about family or, you know, friends and sort of declining invitations. The other thing I was thinking about was like how you can set good boundaries, like a good bodhicitta would have good boundaries. And that sounds like a contradictory, but Chogyam Trungpa spoke about this idea of idiot compassion. So, you know, sometimes if you just go like give yourself a little too much and you're not putting the oxygen mask on yourself, that's self-defeating. And I think sometimes just knowing like when, okay, I can make that social engagement and not feel so depleted. You would know that best, right? And so I think the thing we don't need is the guilt to go with that. Sort of like, yeah, I need to just, and then that'll allow you to maybe the next time when they really do need you, then you sort of can step up, you know, or, you know, touch into your bodhicitta.
thank you.
Thank you. The happy couple in Brooklyn.
Joy, I'm Tracy. This is my first time joining the weekly Dharma gathering here. For me, I practice with a Zen center with your lovely wife, Daniela, some of the time. And we've been doing daily online sits with Zoom, and with people from all over the world as well, and some doctors and folks who are sick, folks who aren't. It's been lovely just to see people's faces, and have that sense of connection and just check in. And also because I'm in Brooklyn and it's pretty intense here, and not every place in the country is as intense, it's helpful to hear from other people, kind of like we just heard, where Australia, for better or worse, is a little bit behind us. So maybe get ready. But, it's a good corrective to some of the anxiety here, where the sirens are always ambulances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I found it very helpful to begin to volunteer during this time, to help nonprofit organizations to the best of my ability, for the organizations that I think are really in trouble now. And so it's been really centering, since I don't work full time.
Yeah.
To
Are you
actually
able to do that from home, or do you
Yes,
go
yes,
Wow.
through conversations and Zoom,
Yeah.
and just making calls. Like I was making some calls today to people, and I talked to a few 90-year-old people who were very isolated, and they were just so happy to talk to me about the organization because they were lonely and needed people.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful. Thank you.
I think taking a walk too is really helpful. If you stay apart from people, the sun, or just being outside and having the wind there, it helps keep me grounded.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate that we can do that still.
Right. Yeah. So in New York City, it's, what are they calling it? Pause. It's basically a shelter in place, and the grocery stores are open, and the parks, you can take walks in the park, but you have to maintain social distancing. But we'll see if they take that away, if they don't think like our curve is leveling off enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're allowed to do that. They did close down a couple of the playgrounds. They were getting a little too crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything else is pretty much closed.
Everything.
Yeah.
And people walk around with masks.
Right. Yeah. And there are a lot of sirens.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot. So,
Sorry,
go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, it's interesting to, be living in Brooklyn at a time when there's such heaviness with the shelter in place order. But then at the same time, it's spring and it's so beautiful outside. And even just today, I was walking outside, I was just really struck by just how vibrant the tulips were in my neighborhood. So it's just interesting to have that juxtaposition. And I try to get outside every day for at least an hour just to have that balance.
Awesome. Yeah. Nature is definitely helping to keep us sane. And I feel like both things are true. Like terrible things are happening right now, and this beautiful cycle of nature is still ongoing. Yeah, it feels pretty profound.
One positive outcome I've had is homeschooling my daughter, which I've sort of enjoyed. And so she's learned to ride a bike all of a sudden, and because quite intensive sort of learning, I guess. And we've been going down to the local creek to do sort of like 4 elements meditation and things like that. So it's been
Awesome.
it's been really nice actually having that intimacy within our family here, and that sort of closeness, I guess, and being able to spend that time with my daughter anyways. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I've been getting some text messages from my siblings who are in the 4th week of quarantine in California, and they each have 3 kids, and the emoji is just starting to get looking more and more zany, you know. So but yeah, I mean, I feel like this is such a wonderful time to be connecting, you know. So I don't know if Eileen had a question or if she wanted to bring her voice into the circle, but just wanted to give that opportunity.
I don't have a question. I'm just happy to be here. And I'm sorry I'm not on video, but I'm here.
Thank you.
I'm happy to hear from everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to hear your voice. So if no one has questions about Shantideva, we can bow out.
I have a couple of closing announcements.
Yes, right.
Then we can do that bowing. So I wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And you might want to consider joining us again next week on Wednesday, April 8th for Arthi Tejuja. I'm trying to get that pronunciation correct. For a talk entitled Accepting Impermanence, How to Work with Fear and Grief in the Midst of a Rapidly Changing World. You can find out more details via a link in the chat box, except that I don't have that link together. So, but if you go back to the Weekly Dharma Gathering website, you'll be able to go and get that there. And also I invite you to consider becoming a subscriber if you're not already. We have a 7-day trial that you can find on the website. Tell your friends. And in addition, you can follow us on Instagram at Weekly Dharma and Facebook at Weekly Dharma Gathering. So thank you so much, everybody. And thank you so much, Joy. I really enjoyed what you shared with us tonight.
Thank you for hosting. So thank you, everyone. Let's end with a bow to each other. All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.